everyone, and welcome to my channel RPG Retro Reviews. I'm Captain Courageous, and I review old school modules and games and talk about how you can integrate them into your current campaign. Today I'm going to take a look back. I'm reviewing the new release of Wizards of the Coast's Waterdeep Dragon Heist. So you're probably saying, Captain, this isn't an old school module, and you're right. But this module does have some surprising old school elements to it, and for many reasons will be of interest to quite a few viewers of this channel. So without further ado, let's take a look at Waterdeep Dragon Heist. Spoiler warning, I will be revealing some secret story elements here, but not overly so. So if you're a player, you may want to skip this review and just point your DM to it, but I'm not going to reveal too many of this module's surprises. Waterdeep Dragon Heist is a wonderfully sandboxy adventure for the 5th edition of Dungeons & Dragons, and I'm going to review this one on several different levels. First, I'm going to take a look at the module's aspects as a D&D adventure. Then I'm going to look at the module's handling of Waterdeep and how it relates to old school supplements for the City of Splendors. And finally, I'm going to talk a bit about its use on the Fantasy Grounds virtual tabletop. Waterdeep Dragon Heist begins innocently enough while the players are at the Yawning Portal Tavern and approached by none other than Volothamp Gedarm as he's returning from his book tour for Volo's Guide to Monsters. Shameless plug. Volo employs the heroes to find a missing friend of his, Floon Blagmar. This leads to a series of events that set off the module's story. In the backdrop is the rivalry turned violent of the Black Network and the Xanathar Guild. First, let me say this is one of the best organized adventures Wizards of the Coast has put out. It's easy to follow, and the motives of the module's various antagonists are clearly defined. Curse of Strahd was done well. Princes of the Apocalypse was atrocious. The adventure is for character levels 1 to 5, and I'm happy to see an adventure from them that is just some good old-fashioned D&D. No end of the world as we know it, world-shattering event that the heroes need to be involved in. This is a delicious street-level urban adventure. It's sandboxy and has several options that make it easy for the DM to customize the module to suit their group's playstyle. Though this is the second time they've started a published adventure at the Yawning Portal and not gone down into Undermountain. With the gaping well just beckoning to the players, the DM might have to think on the fly if the players do what players do and decide they want to explore Undermountain. The time of year the adventure starts in determines who the primary villain is going to be. I love this. One of the cool things about Waterdeep is how the seasons alter its character. The spring and summer months are bustling and busy, while the fall and winter months are slower as the snowy weather brings everything to a standstill. The villains are displayed prominently on the book's cover, so revealing them here won't spoil much. There's the Xanathar Guild, of course, led by the insane beholder Xanathar, and I really love the character that the creators have brought to this villain. His megalomania, paranoia, and love of his pet goldfish Sigler is just great for a DM to open up and choose some scenes. I really appreciate the fun afforded here of playing evil. But really, each of the villains in this adventure allows for this in their own way. Of course, bringing in the Xenarum and the Black Network is a must for this sort of thing, the default Forgotten Realms villains since its introduction of the setting. The twist here is that the Zent wizard Monshoon is dead. Of course, he had clones, but after his untimely death, some mishap caused all of them to awaken at once. An intense rivalry between them led to the destruction of most, and one of the survivors has been hiding out in Waterdeep. Then there's Jaraxel Benair, the drow pirate from R.A. Salvatore's Drizzt novels, has business dealings in Waterdeep and gets involved in the adventure. Of all the villains presented, Jaraxel offers a swashbuckling opportunity for mayhem and one of the least combat-oriented villains. Here is a character whose motives may help or hinder the heroes at different times, and one who will keep them guessing as to what his true endgame is. Finally, There's Lord Victoro and Lady Amalia Castellanter, nobles of Waterdeep. This one is dark and tragic, and in some ways reminds me of H.P. Lovecraft a la the Dunwich Horror. To me, this is the one that can really derail a campaign and land the heroes in the most trouble, as resolving it will require a more delicate approach than the others. The Castellanters are not just Waterdeep nobles, they are one of the most well-connected families in the city. A physical confrontation with them or getting caught breaking into their villa has harsh legal implications, and the DM will need to stress this if he or she intends to use this storyline. Or else the campaign ends with the PCs sentenced to hard labor, or at the end of a hangman's rope, or possibly banished from the city. Fortunately, there is a legal code handout provided, and DMs definitely need to stress this to the players. My appreciation for the inclusion of the Castellanters extends to the fact that the Castellanter noble family is well established all the way back to FR1, Waterdeep in the North, and I'll touch more on the module's connection to past supplements in just a moment. The primary premise of the module revolves around the missing 500,000 gold dragons embezzled by the former Open Lord of Waterdeep, Dagalt Neverember. The location of said stash of gold known only by possessing a peculiar magic item called the Stone of Golar. Recovering this secret stash of gold is the goal of each of the various factions explained previous, as well as a few others, and the heroes find themselves thrown into the middle of this mad treasure hunt. There is a lot of fun to be had here. Christopher Perkins and his team should be commended for crafting an adventure stuffed full of so many interesting characters, each with well-defined motivations and storylines of their own. Interestingly, story consultants on this module included Charles Sanders and Matthew Mercer. Sanders was a writer on the Comedy Central sketch comedy Key and Peele, and of course, Matthew Mercer is well known for his dungeon mastering skills on Geek and Sundry's Critical Role web series. Another aspect I appreciate with this module is the great artwork. Anything depicting daily life in the City of Splendors or one of its many wonders is great for helping set tone and atmosphere. The team of illustrators have gone above and beyond in not only capturing the tone of the city, but also staying true to its old school heritage. Starting with Chapter 5, Spring Madness, there is a series of chapter art that I find fascinating in its details. The artwork basically depicts the same city street in Dock Ward from the same point of view through each of the seasons. In the upper left corner of each of these pieces is a hanging sign for Nestar's Ropes. Now that's an Easter egg. If you're a longtime DM or player of Waterdeep, you might recognize the name because Nestor the Rope Maker has been one of the listed shops in Dock Ward since Waterdeep in the North. Depicted as location number 246 in that supplement, City System and Volo's Guide, and D40 in the City of Splendor's box set and those thereafter. There's never been a detailed write-up for Nestor's shop, so its inclusion just goes to show the attention to the city's details the creative team is dedicating to this series of adventures. And that brings me to the next part of this review, and that's Dragon Heist's connection to previous supplements, as well as the follow-up to this adventure, Waterdeep Dungeon of the Mad Mage. Included with this adventure is a nice double-sized poster map of the city. I've had an extensive amount of time to look this map over in detail, and I'll speak more about that in the third part of this review on the Fantasy Grounds version of this module. Xanathar and his guild goes back to the city's origins as well, and this module presents the Xanathar's lair in detail. The last treatment given to the Beholder and his lair goes all the way back to the original Ruins of Undermountain box set, Area 68, on the third level of Undermountain, not that far from Skullport in the Eye and the Hand adventure in the Undermount Adventures book of that supplement. Dragon Heist places the lair beneath Skullport with a secret passage that leads to the Guts and Garters Inn, which is not detailed here, but contains a note to consult Dungeon of the Mad Mage for more information. Once again, the designers provide us with an Easter egg, as Guts and Garters was given a minor mention in the original Skullport supplement. its location, L817 on that map, and its entry is on page 50. I think one of the biggest surprises I had when looking through this adventure was the various location maps, which are done by none other than the king of old school maps himself, Dyson Logos. This is a massive departure from the masterpiece artwork style of Mike Schley, who has done the maps of every D&D 5e adventure to this point. In many respects, I think this is a good thing. I lamented on this fact in my review of the Yawning Portal, especially in regards to the map for the mega dungeon, the Doom Vault, for the Dead and Thay adventure. As beautiful as that map is, if you're not using a virtual tabletop, the one-page map presented is basically useless and is going to give the DM eye strain. In too many cases, the lush and beautiful detail of the maps are for the DM's eyes only. The players will never see it, as the action is primarily tracked via a rollout battle mat and dry erase markers. Dyson Logos' mapping style is perfect for this style of play. Just detailed enough that a DM can replicate the map with markers, but not such lavish added detail as to be overdone, never to be seen by the players. Now, if you're using the virtual tabletop Fantasy Grounds, a community member by the name of Zacchaeus has created full-color battle maps using Campaign Cartographer 3 for all the primary locations in the module. Now, while Dyson Logos' maps could totally be used virtually, I certainly appreciate the full-color maps Zacchaeus has made. Fantasy Grounds is including Zacchaeus' maps automatically when you purchase Waterdeep Dragon Heist, though you'll need to go to your library and physically search for Zacchaeus' map pack and open it before it will show up. You'll also need to map pin the locations manually, but they look great and will be useful additions to play. And that brings me to the Fantasy Grounds portion of this review. If you've watched my channel for any length of time, you'll know that I'm a big fan of the virtual tabletop Fantasy Grounds. The power of this application to help organize your games can't be understated. Regardless of whether or not you use it to run games online, or perhaps to provide virtual maps with a projector or flat screen TV for your players at the table, you can still use its combat tools and powerful organizational tools to run your games at the table. It works, whether you have online access or not. Or to put it another way, it's an organizational tool for RPGs that also allows you to play online. The automation built into the rules set for 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons are stunning, and it would require a video on its own to talk about just a fraction of them. In the case of running a sandboxy type session in the city of as large as Waterdeep, where the DM is at the mercy of the player's whimsy, Fantasy Grounds becomes invaluable. If you have access to PDFs of the City System, Volo's Guide to Waterdeep, or the City of Splendor's box set, or in my case all three, there's a multitude of resources at your disposal. Fantasy Grounds lets you explore the city in ways not really possible any other way, by allowing you to freely combine them in a single resource with powerful organizational tools. Included with Waterdeep Dragon Heist is a poster map of the city. It's dual-sided. One side is a player's map, the other a DM's map with locations important to the adventure highlighted. On Fantasy Grounds, this poster map is divided into 6 digestible pieces that let you get a close-up view of the city's details. And while the locations from old school supplements aren't numbered on this map, I can tell you, after exhaustive research, they are all mostly still there with a few notable exceptions. All the nobles' villas that were painstakingly detailed on previous maps are still there and easily recognizable, as are all the guild headquarters. The fun and cool thing about using Fantasy Grounds is you can compare the maps and then map pin the locations yourself. Sewer entrance mentioned in the Ruins of Undermountain box set can be map pinned, as can the various alleys. Details in these locations can be cut and pasted from PDFs and exported. Here you can see I've map pinned one of the more notable taverns in Waterdeep, the Thirsty Throat. Click on the map pin and the information from City of Splendors and Volo's Guide is instantly available. In addition, I've got hot links for the poster map of the place from City of Splendor's box set and the street level map from Volo's Guide. If you're using a player display, you can then easily share these with your players. The changes to the city are really minor, the most notable being the outer wards and the new inclusions, which aren't detailed here very much. And all the walking statues are now visible and fixed in various locations throughout the city after their inadvertent and disastrous activation during the spell plague. The names of some streets and alleys have changed, and I noticed quite a few places where certain gaps to alley and street entrances have been filled in with more buildings. Some buildings are gone or changed shape. Some of the alleys and street names have changed. The most notable change I saw was the renaming of Slut Street, probably understandable, in Dock Ward to Zastrow Street. That's probably a little nod to gamer and blogger Elliot Zastrow, who's well known for his masterfully detailed PDF map of Waterdeep on the Candlekeep website. Overall, I think this is one of the best adventures Wizards of the Coast has released for 5e for several reasons. First, it connects in several places and interesting ways to things that have gone before. You have the Yawning Portal, Volothamp Gedarm, many Easter eggs from other old school supplements. You have a wonderfully detailed and organized sandbox adventure with colorful and interesting NPCs whose motivations are clearly defined, all placed in a detailed and colorful setting. This is just great Dungeons & Dragons. Volo also hints that he's working on a new book and laments on how his previous work, Volo's Guide to Waterdeep, is sorely out of date. Is this why he's in Waterdeep? I love this because it's just so meta. Provided in Chapter 9 is Volo's Waterdeep and Caridian, which lays out the history of the city and updates the recent history of the place since it was last detailed in 3rd edition. I've said before that Volo's Guide to Waterdeep is one of the most charming supplements for 2nd edition, and in my opinion, one of the best city supplements and the best Volo's Guide. There's such flavor and interesting details in it. Everything from taverns such as the Crawling Spider, a tavern in Castle Ward that has a mock Underdark and waitresses dressed up as drow, or the vile and dangerous Bloody Fist in Dock Ward, the sensual festivals such as the Blushing Mermaid and the Smiling Siren, all populated with interesting characters, making for fun play at the game table, and exemplifies the character of the City of Splendor. Well, that about wraps up this review. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you found it interesting and informative. Please help me out. Click the like button, share this on Facebook and other forums you frequent, comment below, and subscribe for more content like this. As always, my friends, may your D20 roll true, and game on.